Hello and welcome. You're watching FII. I'm Sonal Mehrotra Kapoor. Now, with hospital beds running out, home care for COVID is becoming more and more important. We did a full episode dedicated to the COVID home care essentials, and in some of the comments, you, the viewer of FII, wrote to us asking about handling dipping oxygen levels at home. So today, we take you through what is technically known as proning. It's being used effectively across the world now to increase lung capacity and oxygen concentration. So let's dive in straight to the explainer. So self-proning is basically a restorative yoga pose and is also known to be used in COVID-19 ICUs as self-proning or swimmer's pose. In a pilot study that was conducted in the New York City in the COVID intensive care unit, they figured out that within 5 minutes, self-proning can actually increase the oxygen saturation in the blood by 10%. So what exactly is proning? It resembles somebody who's sleeping on their stomach, but with a proper support to support the body in the lungs as well. Proning is a medically accepted position to improve breathing comfort and oxygenation. It is extremely beneficial for COVID-19 patients who have a bit of compromised breathing comfort, especially during home care. But it's important to understand who should really be doing proning. Now, if you're under home care, that is, you're treating COVID at home and your oxygen concentration falls below 94, it is to be done by people like you. It is best done while awaiting hospitalization or oxygen support as well. There are 4 self-proning postures, and we'll show you all of that in just a bit. But remember that do not spend more than 30 minutes in each of these positions at a stretch. Some cautions also to remember while you do practice self-proning at home. Avoid proning for at least an hour after your meals. Maintain proning for only as much as you can and your body can easily tolerate. And keep a track of any pressure sores or injuries, especially around the bony prominences in your body. But there are some people who should avoid proning altogether. This applies to pregnant women, any major cardiac conditions if you've been through, if you have an unstable spine or you have a pelvic fracture, or if you've had a DVT in the past couple of days as well. So now that you understand what proning is all about, let's give you a demo.
So I spoke with some experts and lung doctors to understand what is the best way to do proning at home. Well, I'm using a yoga mat over here, but you can do this on your bed mostly, especially if it's a patient already on the bed. You just need to roll him over. But before that, this is the prep you need to do. Now, proning at home generally involves 3 layers of cushions being put in. You'll see that the tallest pile is right here. But also notice how it's not in the center really, because the thing to remember is that the tallest pile of 2 cushions should not fall on your stomach, but actually be on your pelvic region. Let me show you how. So when you lie down, this tallest pile of 2, you can use 3 also if that's okay with you, should get here on your pelvic region. You see this? You see my 2 feet back on that pillow in the end, and then this smallest one just to support your chin. Now if you'll notice, the thing to check and understand whether you're doing it right or no is put your hand underneath, and if your stomach still has space between the bed, that's when you're doing it correctly. So one way to do is like this. The other one, also called the swimming pose, can be done like this. The other hand just goes on the back and you can just lie on the side. Do this for about 30 minutes and then it's advisable to change to another position. The other position is basically to go on your side. That's when you can let go of the pillows and just lie on the side like this. You can do the exact same thing on the other side as well. And the 4th position is to actually be sitting in a position slightly reclined. So I'm just using the pillows right now for support. When you sit at home, it can be like this as well. So slightly declined at about 30 degrees or so. So try this at home, but remember it's very important to understand who needs proning and who does not. So do consult your doctor before you indulge in any of these exercises.
So do talk to your doctors before you do any of this, of course, and we've got some experts on the program as well to take us through the details of how exactly the entire mechanism works. We have Dr. Harish Mehta joining us from the Hinduja Hospital in Khar, Mumbai. We've got Dr. Harshvardhan, not the health minister, but joining us from Medanta here in Gurugram. And we've got Sarvesh Sashi over here. He's a millionaire yogi. He's a COVID survivor himself, and he's somebody who told me a little earlier that he managed COVID very well because of the exercises that he'd been doing. So we'll be very delighted to have some of them being shared by our viewers as well. Let me give the first word to Dr. Harshvardhan. Really, Dr. Harsh, we've tried to give a demo, try to understand and mostly indicate to people that this is to be done by those whose oxygen saturation actually dips below 94. But the question is, can this be done by anybody at all?
There are two aspects to this that we have to understand why proning is done. The science behind proning. The science behind proning is that the ventilation perfusion mismatch is lowest when we are lying down on our belly or on our prone position. So the science says that the ventilation perfusion mismatch is the lowest. So your oxygen concentration increases by the peripheral oxygen increases by 3 to 4% when you are lying on the prone position. This is a very common thing which is being used previously also. When COVID was not there, we were using this thing in ARDS patients in ICUs. So prone ventilation is a very old concept we used to do. Now in COVID, what we are telling people is anybody can do these exercises, but it is recommended for those who have an oxygen saturation below 94. So what you have to do, if you are at home isolation, you should be measuring your saturation 4 times a day. And at any point of time, if it is dipping below 94, you can try this proning thing. Proning thing is there are 2 or 3 aspects to it. It should be done very carefully. Your tummy should always be in the free part, as your correspondent has shown. It should not be pressing, because the diaphragm gets pressed if your tummy gets pressed. And if your diaphragm gets pressed, the saturation will fall further. It won't increase, it will fall further.
So you have to be careful with that. That's why I was trying to say in the video that you have to slide in your hand and ensure that there is space in the middle.
There is nothing. Yes, there is nothing in between your stomach and the. So, and you have to frequently change your position. After 30 to 40 minutes, you can maintain the same position for 1.5 to 2 hours maximum. That is the maximum you can do. You can do proning up to 10 to 12 hours per day, but that depends upon your ability to do it and how comfortable you are. If you are getting uncomfortable at one posture, you can change the posture to the right later, to the left later, and the sitting posture. So this
and
is,
do you vouch by the results what the New York study has talked about? And
100%.
Constant,
yes.
It's gone up by at least 10% in their patients?
Yes. The 4 to 5% increase in saturation we were used to see in ARDS patients also, which we were proning in ICUs before COVID also. So the 10% rule is there. Even people have increase in their oxygen saturation by 10%. So I really vouch by it. If you are not getting bed, if you're not getting oxygen, or you want to decrease the oxygen consumption of your body, proning is the method to be done.
All right. Let me bring in Dr. Harish Mehta at this point as well. Dr. Mehta, there are but some people, like I pointed out in the explainer as well, who should not indulge in proning at all. Some red flags that you would like to raise, especially, in fact, I just had a question, if I can ask you that. There's a viewer who wrote to me saying that what about people who can't even do this, who are in an emergency state and are finding it difficult to even lie on their belly? Is there a way out for them?
No, I think if you have a situation where you can't even lie down on bed, I think you should be looking to get to a hospital as soon as possible. I don't think you should spend enough time trying to prone yourself or try to sit down and feel better. I mean, of course, try to arrange oxygen at home in the meantime till you get a bed. But I would not waste time in doing these maneuvers if you are not being able to lie down at all.
Okay, and if somebody is trying this at home and is already on an oxygen concentrator, can proning be done with the oxygen concentrator on?
Right. See, proning initially, as Dr. Harshvardhan said, was always done in hospital patients who were on ventilator or on non-invasive ventilation. to improve their oxygenation and prevent them from going on ventilator.
Okay.
It was actually never designed to be done at home. Now with the study in New York and in Singapore and with ICMR, we are recommending for people who have borderline saturations who can attempt this at home. But till you get a bed and if you're on oxygen, you can attempt proning, provided you realize that you do not compromise the flow of oxygen. You don't kink the tube of the oxygen, because then the whole purpose gets defeated. Because many times when you turn around...
maybe a good thing to do is, while you're doing it, have an oximeter attached. So that's a good tell to know if you're doing it correctly or no. And Dr. Harsh, Harish, beg your pardon, can this be done with kids as well? Kids and say teenagers as well?
Yeah, it can be done for teenagers as well. Because nowadays we see that present wave is seen more in younger people. So I think it can be done in younger people also. But the idea is to have an assisted proning and to understand the proning with your doctor. And you see that you don't compromise the oxygen supply to your body and you don't worsen it. That's most important.
That's right. All right, let me bring in Sarvesh as well at this point. Sarvesh, I'm sure you knew already about proning and you've been doing lots of exercises in addition to that. Why don't you educate our viewers a little more on some of the other stuff that can be done at home? You're on mute. If you could unmute yourself, please.
Even last time the same thing happened. Anyways, thank you for having me, and hi doctors, both of you, and I'm very, very humbled to be here because what all of y'all are doing is phenomenal, not even close to anything that we are doing as a yoga company, but hats off to all of y'all. During my COVID kind of journey completely, my oxygen levels were fortunately at 99 and 100, and I think that's because of 22 years of yoga. And honestly, I only did 3 breathing exercises, which I even mentioned last time, which was Anulom Vilom, alternative nostril breathing, Kapalabhati, and Bhastrika Pranayama. In fact, my doctor prescribed me on my prescription, apart from my other medicine, saying breathing exercises, right? So breathing exercises meant for me these 3 pranayamas, very, very easily doable from the comfort of your home. Ideally, Bhastrika and Kapalabhati I would let people to avoid because it has contraindications on it as well. Anulom Vilom is a pranayama that has 0 contraindications, and anybody right from the age of 6 to 100 plus can comfortably do it, and it really helps in oxygenation, right? That's the word that is being used. That's why proning is done, and like you're beautifully showcased visually how proning is done. The oxygenation happens because of pranayama. If you're able to breathe in, inhale and exhale as much as you can, and if you're able to do it through alternative nostrils, which is the Anulom Vilom pranayama, it will do a lot of good to you, and you can do it from the comfort of your home, hospital, wherever you are. Because my entire family, my mom, dad, brother, everybody had contracted COVID, and I ensure that everybody did this from wherever they are with one of our instructors coming online.
Okay. So actually, I'm very fascinated about this panel because you have a yoga guru and you also have doctors put together. So I'm excited to know the views of doctors on this as well, where the benefits of yoga have been talked about. There is criticism about how much it actually contributes. But in the case of COVID, Dr. Harsh, what has been your experience? Doing breathing exercises at home should be done by everybody, even if you've not thankfully contracted the virus yet?
Yes, definitely. Being a thoracic surgeon, in the post-operative period, most of our patients do the deep breathing exercises and all those. See, whatever the science behind it is, whether it is being done by the name of Anulom Vilom or it is being done by the name of spirometry, the end result of these all exercises is always same. We have to increase the lung capacity of the patient. So what we generally recommend to the post-operative patient is, I'll just demonstrate one simple exercise we tell to our patients, that take a deep breath, stop your breath for around 40 seconds, count till 40, and then leave your breath. This is a very easy exercise. It increases the ventilatory capacity of your lungs. You just have to stop the breathing for 10, 15, 20 seconds, whatever maximum you can achieve. And if you are able to stop it till 40 seconds, you are normal. You're good. You're doing good. So this is what my advice is to all my patients.
And then
breathe
leave
in,
it.
Hold and then exhale. The maximum you can do it, the maximum benefit you can get. Easily you can do it on your in your bed, on your chairs for around 5 times per hour, and this will really improve the ventilatory capacity of your lungs. This is I usually advise to my patients. So I think the yoga guru will also agree with me that these kind of exercises are really nice to be done.
What do you
even
call
if
it
you are not
medically
having
though? I know the term for it in yoga, but what do you call it medically?
I just call it deep breathing exercises.
Okay. Sarvesh, there's a name for this exercise in there?
Nothing.
So the breathing that he's
when
doing
we do
is
it with
go on, sorry.
when we do it with the gadgets and all those, we call it incentive spirometry, but usually we don't call it that. We call it breathing exercise. We encourage our patients to do it, and that's how it gets a name, deep breathing. Nothing
No,
else.
but the best part is like doctors saying, I know a lot of doctors. I mean, we've been taking classes for people, for healthcare workers from their hospital. Like they're in their hospital in their PPE kit and just removing the mask and quickly doing an exercise, coming into a small room in Zoom. And, we are doing our best. And the fundamental thing, like, doctor was saying, we've been telling them do 2 things. One is Anulom Vilom, which is inhale through your left, hold for a second and exhale through your right, and do it again. Alternative nostril breathing. And the second thing, like Dr. Harsh said, is inhale, hold as much as you can, exhale and hold as much as you can, and then do that. Like if you can do it 6 times and then move on to 8, 10, 12, and then like doctor said, try increasing the capacity of your holding of your breath. That is what really shows improvement of lung capacity. And if that you're able to do for 40 seconds, you're normal. For yogis, for us, from a yoga perspective, we say just keep going higher and higher as much as you can, because as long as you're breathing, you don't have to worry, right? So that's the whole idea for why proning is done, why oxygenation is done, why breathing is done, why all of this is done.
I'm loving the semblance of medicine and yoga on the program today. Let's take a quick break. Let me also try this out during the break, and we'll come back with more viewer questions on the other side. Stay tuned. All right, let's take some viewer questions now, some related to proning, some not. The first one has actually come to us from Muhammad Alam. He says the first question is if age is a concern. We've already addressed that. But the second one, he says, can it be harmful in any way if not done properly? Dr. Harsh, do you want to take that and also tell us that when, like, what's a red flag? When do you tell yourself, okay, this is not happening, I should stop?
The thing I told in the beginning also.
Yeah.
You call Dr. Harish or Harsh? Both of us.
Dr. Harsh, I'll go to him next. Yeah.
Okay. So the point is that if proning is done in a wrong way and you are, red flags, the contraindications are pregnant women, the people who have spinal fractures, any fractures in the body, deep vein thrombosis, and immediately after eating, because you can induce vomiting also. So these are the contraindications, and if not done properly, if there is something like the pillows are just under your abdomen, you will just press the diaphragm and that will decrease the oxygen saturation in your body in spite of increasing it. So first thing first, it should be done very properly. We have a video released by Institute of Chest Surgery. Dr. Arvind Kumar, who is our chairman, has made a video in the morning and released it in the social media also. So I'll be sharing the link with you also.
That'd be great.
The point is that, it should always be done very properly, first thing. And the other thing, the second part of the question was contraindications I have told.
Right. No, I just wanted to say that, is there a red flag? But I think you've answered that. Let me take the next question now. This is by Moksh Koda. He says, this is not really related to proning, but seems like a desperate call, and I really want to address if Dr. Harish can answer that. He says, how to treat patients at home if oxygen cylinders are unavailable, how to treat if remdesivir and Favi is unavailable, what can we as normal humans do to save our dearest? I think this is just a desperate call.
Okay. I can imagine that.
It's not an easy one to answer, but any sense of...
I'll try my best.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I almost receive 30 to 50 calls every day asking me the same thing, asking for bed. So if oxygen is not available, try to get an oxygen supplement somewhere or the other, get to a place where you can get some oxygen, because there's no alternative to oxygen. So the idea here is to get admitted before you deteriorate. And the only way to do it is the moment you're detected with COVID, be in touch with a doctor or a hospital who can guide you when to get admitted. Most problems happen because you realize late.
So let me put it this way. If your oxygen concentration on the oximeter says below 94, call your doctor.
94 after 6-minute walk. Very important. 94 at rest. Some people may drop to 88 or 90 when they walk for 6 minutes. So at least once a day, a 6-minute walk, or maybe twice a day, a 6-minute walk. Measure the oxygen. If it drops below 24, then that's a red flag. You should start looking for oxygen cylinders and hospital beds.
Okay, for those who don't know the walk test, as it's called, let me just quickly tell you what it is. It's basically taking account of your oximeter and your oxygen saturation first up, then take a swift walk inside your room only, inside your quarantine room, and then note your oxygen concentration at the end of it. The idea is that even at the end of it, it should be above, say, not below 92 at least. Is that correct, doctor?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay. Also, Dr. Haresh, the difference between an oxygen concentrator and an oxygen altogether, when should one be swinging to either of them?
The oxygen concentrator has its limitation. It can't go beyond 5 liters at the max. So if you need more oxygen, then you need an oxygen cylinder. But again, that also is not helpful because it cannot control the amount of oxygen delivered to the lungs. So beyond a point, you have to get to a hospital where they can monitor the fraction of inspired oxygen being given to the lungs.
All right. Okay. So let me take the next question. This is from Adnan Khan. He says, FYI, do we really need to wear masks in our homes? Extremely controversial. Who wants to take that?
I'm going to butt in here and I can let others take it. So I would say wear a mask at home, provided your house members are regularly going out. So if you have house members who are not regularly going out and not interacting with people outside, then you can be without a mask. But if you have house help coming from outside, or if a couple of your family members are regularly going out, either like me to a hospital or to another workplace, then it's safer to wear a mask or at least maintain social distance.
Okay, so depending on your level of exposure, really.
Yes.
All right, I only have time for some quick closing comments now. Let Sarvesh say a few words and give a few tips then.
No, I think all these are very valid questions, and I think the responses will be very useful for everybody watching. But I think number one is, as we always say, is be as positive as one can in the situation without, I mean, I will not say not panicking, don't be paranoid. It's easier said than done. But I think during this time, a little bit of more kindness, a little bit of more positive attitude, a little bit of more proactivity. Like, when doctor said, even when you remotely think there is some kind of symptom, immediately call your doctor, immediately call your hospital. Don't take it lightly. And most importantly, stay safe, stay at home, vaccination, and be protective of yourself to begin with. Right. And in turn, you can be protective of your near and dear ones, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you need to do what you do.
And the thing everybody can do to help is to stay indoors. Do not add into those numbers. We'll leave it there for the moment. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope this was helpful. We'll see you again in the next episode. Bye-bye.